the end of part one, we talked about your decision to go pro punting. You talked that you're a married man. So how many times, how many moments of doubt have you had, and how many times have you actually regretted the decision not to keep your safe and secure job working for somebody and go pro punting?
Look, I've got a fantastic wife. We've been married for 17 or 18 years or something like that now. And the one thing, we don't have any kids, so we're unlucky in that aspect, but we're also lucky in that we can do what we want for ourselves. And the one thing that the two of us have always stated is that we never want to go to work and hate it. So I've never regretted it. I've never regretted not getting it. At times I wish I did have enough, some paid work to pay the mortgage when you're going through a bad run, but I've never regretted it once, not one bit. And I can't imagine ever going back to work for someone again. So yeah, so it's a team effort here. Even though my wife does nothing to do with what I do, she's every bit as part of it, because she's the one that wanted to support me when I wanted to become a bookmaker to start with, which is a huge plunge. She moved to Darwin with me when I got the job at Iskanders. She moved to Wollongong when I got the next job. She's followed me around and supported me. And then when I said that I wanted to leave this job, wasn't happy there anymore. Not even a discussion about it. She just said, just leave. Something's going to come up. Something will come up, and something always comes up. So
what about, I've spoken to quite a few professional punters, and the practicalities of being one, i.e. getting a mortgage, getting any sort of, how have you dealt with things like that?
Impossible. Funny you say that. I'm actually just right at the moment trying to do something like, I've owned my house here for 3 years, and I had to get my mum and dad to go guarantor on the house. So basically it doesn't mean anything except that they've just guaranteed that we'll pay the loan. In 3 years I'm miles ahead on my mortgage, whatever else, and I'm actually right in the process of trying to get them off so I can have it under my name. But if I wanted to go and get a new loan to upgrade my house or something, it'd be just impossible, because no one wants to know what you do. It doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank. Doesn't matter how far ahead you are of your mortgage. They don't want to know why you've paid or how you've paid your mortgage on time every week for the last 3 years. It's all about the taxable income. So yeah, it's impossible. I can't even get a credit card for $500. Not that I want one, but I can't even get a credit card for $500. So those type of things do make it quite tough, to be honest. Okay,
so I won't go into the your techniques for harness racing, because it's not really a sport here, so people can learn from. But you've told me that you've diversified into backing greyhounds as well, which is still a very popular sport in the UK. So what is your angle on the dogs?
Look, to be honest, I don't think it really matters whether it's trots, dogs, gallops, sport. I think the main principles are all the same, in that you've got to have you've got to have fantastic discipline, and for me, staking is the key. Everything's about staking. It doesn't matter how good you are at finding winners. There's an art to winning. So there's two different things. Finding winners and winning are completely different. So it doesn't matter if you've got, you could have the paper in front of you with 6 of the 8 winners, and you may not still win for the day if you don't know how to bet and how to win. So for me, I spend as much time learning how to win as I do actually defining my art. So that's my first point I get. It doesn't matter what's your sport or what your code of choice of betting, and it's learning how to win, and staking properly is huge for me. It's a huge thing. You've
preempted a question that's about 3 days, so I'll lead on to that. So what is your staking?
I can go back.
No, yeah. What is your staking plan?
I have a bank, and anything that I do, I price it to 100%. So it doesn't matter whether I'm doing greyhounds, trots, sport, anything like that. I need a price to 100%, and then I actually, personally, without getting too technical, I actually add 30% onto that. So I want to be getting better than 30% of 100% value, if that makes sense. So I need to be getting real good value about what I perceive is real good value before I have a bet. And my staking is dependent on what price I rate a horse or a greyhound or a galloper or whatever it is. So basically, the better the odds or the better the overlay that I'm getting, the better the result will be. So I have a bank. I bet to collect 5% of my bank for each bet, and that's according to my rated price. So I don't take any notice. I don't bet to win a certain amount off the price I'm receiving. It's on the price that I market.
Okay, so when you're pricing up these races, where do you start?
So again, I think it's the same with anything. There's a speed map. It doesn't matter whether it's trots, greyhounds, gallops. You need a speed map. You need to know what's going to be where in the run, and then you've got to sort of work out whether it's going to be a fast, slow, or medium run race. For me in trots, obviously speed map is everything because they've got a harness on the back of them, so it's very hard to run past other horses. Greyhounds, probably 80% of greyhounds lead and win. Gallops is obviously not as much, but if it's a slow tempo and you're on a leader, you've got a better chance than if it's a slow tempo on a back marker, etc. So for me, speed maps are really important. Knowing the horses inside and out, or the greyhounds inside and out, I can sort of tell you what horse did what for its last 5 runs, whether it was well backed, what price it was in the market. I don't use a database whatsoever. I watch 100 races a bloody week, so I just remember them. That's unfortunately, I can't remember what my wife said yesterday, but I can remember that sort of stuff, and I get into trouble for that. So knowing everything inside and out, vital things like drivers and trainers, or jockeys and trainers, or trainers in the greyhounds are majorly important. And and then it's basically a lot of feel. It's having priced 100, 150 races for the last 15 years of my life. It's just second nature now. I can basically price it to 100% without even having to add up the figures. I can get somewhere close there. I do have spreadsheets to do it, but I can get close to that just naturally. And then for me, there's a lot of feel about it. I'm not a database guy. A lot of people are, but I just think that a computer can tell you a lot of things, but it can't tell you the feel of a race. So that's a lot for me as well.
Do you make sure that you aren't influenced? You make sure you don't see anybody else's prices or Betfair before you do it all?
Well, I do all my stuff at least a day in advance. So there is no, for the particular stuff that I do, there is no prices already out. The form guides that I use, there's no prices on them, so I don't look at anything. For us, funny you say for Betfair, because for us in trots and greyhounds, there's literally no liquidity in Betfair until 2 minutes to go. So Betfair doesn't become an option until 2 minutes to go for us. So it's irrelevant, Betfair. So yeah, I don't want to look at anyone's prices. I don't want to speak to anyone about it. I have all my form done with prices done before I look at the prices. I don't use the market at all to influence me. A lot of people do. But the way I see things is, the reason I bet is because I believe I'm better than the market. If you're using the market, it's someone else's opinion. So I'm here, it's my money. I'm going down by the sword by my opinion.
Okay, so if you made something a 3-to-1 chance and you saw it markedly drifting, would you have more on, or would you start smelling a rat?
It's a good question. Basically, I've got, if I've marked it 3-to-1, then I'm having X amount of dollars on it, and I probably would have already had my bet. But if it is drifting, I can't help myself but to have more on, because my average price becomes higher, and I just back myself. So sometimes you're going to be wrong, but again, I'm just backing myself, what I know, and if the price goes out, I'm probably going to have something better on. So my average price is better. So
is everything you do like on a spreadsheet? Do you go back and analyze your bets where you went wrong, where maybe you could improve?
Definitely. I'll definitely go and have a look. And if it did drift from 3-to-1 to 6-to-1 or 7-to-1 or something like that, then I'll probably want to go and have a look at the form and go, oh yeah, you're right. That was why that happened. Or vice versa. If I got beat by something that was 3-to-1 into even money, I want to go and find out why I got beat. So yeah, definitely do analyze what I did wrong and hopefully what I did right as well.
Okay. And also you mentioned when we talked before, sports trading rather than betting. Was that just a terminology, or do you actually trade sports rather than bet?
Yeah, I don't bet on them because I don't have time to do the proper homework and to price things. Because again, I'm price sensitive, so I'm not going to sit there and watch. You know, we'll use an example from you guys. I'm not going to sit there and watch a football game for 90 or all the football games, have it all the notes, blah blah blah, price them up and see whether I'm getting overs or not. So I just don't have the time to do that. So NFL is pretty big here in Australia for traders, or cricket or something like that. You know. So while I'm working, there might be a 5-day test match on here, you know, Australia versus England or something like that. So while I'm working, I've got the cricket on in the background. I might, you know, Australia might be batting on a nice wicket or something like that. So I might back them and then lay them a bit later shorter or something like that. Again, but it's really only probably 10% of my business. And it's something that I do on the side, probably to keep me entertained as much as anything. But, you know, it would probably only make up 10% of whatever I earn for the year. But and NFL is another thing that I just love watching. So while I'm there, I'll try and trade the match. Like I said, cricket, or maybe something like rugby league, which is another thing that I enjoy here in Australia. But other than that, I don't actually bet to just hold a bet on sport, because it's not something that I specialise at. And again, I don't price it up properly.
So would you have a strategy that you always use, like lay the draw to begin with, or at the home team or something like that?
Again, it's just a feel thing. You've obviously got an opinion going in, but I sort of prefer to, if let's say it's cricket, I mean, it's very easy to make money pretty quickly if just by a team winning the toss on what's going to be a good deck. You know, you can just back them and lay them again in 5 minutes and make a little bit of money if you wanted to. But I prefer, if I'm going to be involved though, to lay something short, and hopefully that would drift out and you can get out that way. That way, if you're wrong, you haven't actually done too much money. You know, if you've laid $1.30 run or $1.40 or $1.50 in the run, it's better than trying to back something maybe at $5 or $6 and hope they you know what I mean. So I don't like to risk too much to get into a position early. But again, it's not a huge thing that I do.